got 4 o'clock. Let's start the meeting with the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you all for coming. We got a busy schedule, but I don't think it'll be a long one to get these things done, so let's get right at that. We have minutes to approve from the regular meeting of 7/17. I was not present for that.
Yeah, you was.
Oh, I was.
You and Bruce.
Oh, that's right. That's right. That's right.
We couldn't
go
do this
to
one
August.
last meeting
Yeah,
because
that's right.
Dan was absent. So I make a motion we approve the minutes of July 17, 2023.
And I would second that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Bruce, yours is on the back page.
Okay.
You can?
Nope, I found it. I had it buried.
That is not just a light. I saw that when I was in Chris's
Power grids.
office a while ago, so something's jumping. All right. Payroll. We have payroll in the amount of $219,441.15. And then the second payroll of $774.06 for the Union Hospital Security.
And I make a motion we approve both payrolls as presented.
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. And then we have to acknowledge receipt of the payroll claims in the amount of $187,985.45. It's kind of small. Hi, Nick.
Hey, how are you guys?
Good thing.
We would have waited for you, but we didn't want you to think you were that important.
It's okay.
I had to start with that. It's like starting dinner without you. It's gonna wait.
It's okay.
Is there a motion?
And I make a motion we acknowledge we received the payroll and claims in the amount of $187,985.45.
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Two of them there, so. So how are you? Are you coaching anything at the moment?
Me?
You coaching? Yeah.
No, not at the moment. Son's playing football. Daughter's in between sports.
Youngest grandchild started college today. I must be getting old.
Yeah, college is fun.
What date did I put on that?
Just get back to Mary at 21, wasn't it?
All right, so I meant to put, did I put 21 or just one?
21.
Okay, good. Thanks, sir. All right. All right, then we have a request for out-of-cycle checks. We have 3 of them. So you want to tell us what you got?
The $150 one is travel and training for the clerk's office. The $50 one is for the health department, and it's for vaccines for children. And they won't release the vaccines until they get the money.
Okay.
And the third one is
32.
emergency mobile tech
That's for the ambulance.
ambulance
Yeah.
that had to be, extra work had to be done.
Okay. And the total is $43,583.
Yes, for all 3 of them.
That's why I make that motion. We approve the out-of-cycle checks, the amount, that total amount of $43,583 as presented.
I'll second
Hold,
that.
yeah. Oh, sorry, hold on just a minute. Not sure how we got 42,000. This one's 32,000, is that correct?
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Did I add them wrong?
And then 50.
150 on top of that.
50, that'd be 200.
200 on top of that, yeah.
$32,270.
I must have had something in
That's
my
all right.
calculator.
Okay. So I'll amend that motion to make it $32,070. Is that right?
$32,270.
Okay, $32,270 for the out-of-cycle checks as presented.
And I'll second that again.
Because usually I hit zero several,
All in favor,
clear
say aye.
several times.
Okay. Try to do better, will you?
Yeah,
You know.
I mean, I worked for a CPA company for a while.
You've done this a couple times before, I think.
Well, and spell check don't catch that.
Okay, all right. First up, let's get Matt Steckley up here for core facilities. What we're talking about today with Matt is we have faced deteriorating siding issues at the jail for a couple of years now. We're getting water infiltration. So come on up, Matt. Pull the chair up there and sit right there if you'd like to, and share with us what you got.
Yes, sir.
So if you remember, we couldn't get any bidders on the job for last year. So Matt suggested we agree to suspend the seeking, and then he took up again this summer or spring to try to find someone to do the work and see what the work really was going to encompass, what the scope was going to be, what the sequence would be. He has done all that, and so that's what he's got his report here to do. Great.
Thank you, Jim. So you guys had tasked me with, hey, we've got some issues on the facade, the ephes at the jail. No clue in terms of estimates. Let's kind of do a deep dive to where we get some exact numbers, and we'll explore doing it holding off. I had informed you guys after a couple months in my 23 years, I've never had a project like that. I believe Commissioner Cullen, it was you, said you knew some folks at Nucor. Exhausted that. I know with the auditor, we advertised it. I called everyone from up north, Chicago suburbs, on my side of the line, Porter County, Lake County. We exhausted Indianapolis. I couldn't even get a single company to be like, yeah, well, let's meet out there. I mean, it was really, really something. And I'm dealing with that. It's the economic climate in the trades right now, but not like this. And so I said, like, this never happened and this has never came out of my mouth, but let's just hold. We're getting nowhere. So picked it back up, went smaller this time, and then a referral, word of mouth, actually, when I was discussing this project, opened the door, and then that door opened other doors to other folks, and just absolutely outstanding where we're at and what I'm going to present to you guys today. What was a dead end, replace everything, has turned into us actually finding multiple issues that even if we replaced all the ephes, we'd be in the same boat a few years down the road. So 3 project site meetings, me on site with multiple trades, by the way, each time, and every time we'd re-meet up, we'd kind of get a little bit further and, well, let's meet up with this guy coming. This guy really knows this. So it kind of was like every time we met up, there'd be 1 or 2 extra contractors there to really get eyes on this. So that's rolling at 50,000 foot. So where we're at today is multiple issues. One is the ground level, the excavating that was done / settling of the ground around the jail. So problem number 1 is that a lot of the problem areas, actually all of the ground slopes back towards the building. So we have massive standing water issues.
Hang on just a second.
Yes, sir.
Feel free that if you hear anything that you question or you have another comment on that, you're all part of this discussion too. So don't be afraid to say, wait a minute.
All right.
Would you explain it? Because you've been there for a lot of years, so you know what's going on there as well. So sorry, Matt, I didn't want
Yeah,
to.
no,
I didn't want him
definitely.
to be afraid to jump in and ask.
No,
questions.
please do. So this started out originally with, and I did some deep digging, that the same architect contractor that built this jail did another large bank a year after this with the same material, and they had some cracking. This was very early on, so I'm like, whatever was going on, either it was engineered wrong, it wasn't installed wrong, we got to rip it all down, let's get some estimates. Preliminary estimates from an architectural engineering firm that I also have documentation, that was starting at $600,000 going up to $1 million, just to rip it all down and replace it. So that's where it left off in phase 1 before I said, like, let's just take a break, take a breather, I need a breather, let me start fresh on this. So to catch up then on all these meetings that have taken place in the last month or 2. So problem number 1 is that the ground is sloped back towards the facility. Problem number 2 is that the gutters were installed into the ephes. So all of this water that is
Ethos, what do you mean by that?
the siding, that's the type of material. All this water that is coming off the roof, that's going into the gutters, all of it, when it overflows, leaks, all of it is going onto the ethos. You're basically taking all the water off of this entire facility and either rubbing it against the ethos or overflowing it onto the ethos. That was problem number 2. Problem number 3 in some areas of cracking was that this was a prefab jail. In terms of the jail cells, they were brought in, correct me, that's a prefab jail. Some of the cells they actually brought into site and then built around. It was kind of like a puzzle. They connected it.
Yeah, the cells were boxes brought in and set, and then they built around those, right?
That's my understanding.
Yes,
Correct,
thank you.
correct. Some of the cracking on some of the sides of the jail is the actual prefab cells shifting and sliding. So that was problem number 3 or 4. And the biggest problem that we had actually was around the entire facility, 365 degrees, about an inch off the facility, that lower ethos was never caulked or sealed. So basically, since this building has been built, all of that moisture, it's been literally a sponge. It's just sucking it up.
Sure.
So with all, and literally every time on our visit, we're like digging in deeper and digging in. It was actually, I've never had a project like this. It was really cool. So we have identified, and I can put a report together. I didn't bring it today. I'd have to transfer everything from my phone. There are a total of 18 sections. We walked the entire 365 degrees of that facility. There are 18 sections that we are cutting out, and in those 18 images, screenshots, and then I drew on them as we were there measuring with our tape measures, this by this and here, and it's all drawn out of where we have damage. The other area that I did not mention was the outdoor rec area. So because of the water coming in, it's the outdoor rec area, that one entire side that spans the outdoor rec area, that is going to be metal siding. So we're going to replace these 18 sections, some much larger than others, with ethos. But at that outside rec area, you could smell the mold. Like nothing to like scare. I probably shouldn't say it publicly. Everyone goes crazy over mold. It's outside, but you could smell behind that ethos. We're going to have to do some cleanup. Just that should have never been ethos, and that there should have been extensive caulking the way that was installed.
So you found 18 sections that need to be taken.
18 sections that are cracked when you go on. It started with something's going on here. This all doesn't need to be replaced because you would not, as you're going around, and the ethos would be solid. I mean, it was solid, but you go to other sections and it's like.
What percentage of the structure would those 18 sections make up? Half of it needs to be redone? 3/4 of it needs to be redone? What are we looking at?
Honestly, if I was to put a percent of the entire facility, probably 30 to 40%.
Okay.
And then what we are doing, which I threw this into the scope of work, 2 foot off the ground, the entire facility is new ethos. So from all that moisture. So and then when we're all done, so the gutters, we've got to deal with that. There's issue number 1 on the gutters. That we don't know, pulling teeth again, but I'm not scared. But I need to get someone that I really am like, this is the guy for this job. 1, they're commercial gutters, 8-inch gutters. They're your normal residential gutter guys. This is over his league. So it's finding the right contractor. We need to determine how do we get certain sections of the gutters off the ethos, or do we take it all off the ethos via custom fabricating brackets? But in terms of like new gutters, no. Just how do we bring it out off the ethos? We're looking to come off the ethos 1 inch. So that is cure number 1. Cure number 2 is 365 degrees of the facility, 2 foot off the ground, new ethos. Whether it's solid or not, all of that's coming up, and then we'll caulk underneath the right way. And then there is the rec area. That will all be metal siding. Everything will be recaulked. Windows, ethos, gutters, we are recaulking, removing the old caulk and recaulking the entire facility. And then the 18 sections of damaged, cracked, the entrance, like the main entrance doors, kind of all the way around, we're just going to tear all of that off. That's 100% replacement, but that's 1 of 18 sections.
And put back what?
Ethos.
Same stuff that's on there?
Oh yeah. Just there's reasons why all this is cracking. This isn't just cracking because it's old.
Because we
No.
talked before about replacing all that with metal.
Yes, originally it started with
Yes.
metal. And yes, this project is really kind of taking its own tour, but longevity, drive, patience, if this actually was done too quick, it would have been metal siding, it would have been ethos, and we still would have had a lot of these issues, So there's multiple things that are going on here, and why and what is causing all of this.
Okay.
So what I have before you guys, if I were in your shoes, if I was a commissioner, if budget was on my side, and what are we going to do in options, I laid out for you guys what I would do personally with all of my expertise and how to execute this.
Well, that's what I tasked you with. This.
Correct.
We've had a relationship for a couple of years now.
5.
And I don't expect him to come and offer us anything lesser than what needs to be done to it. We're not here to spend tax dollars and do something less than what it should be. So I appreciate your attitude on that and coming with that. I believe when you tell me that this needs to be done, this needs to be done.
Yeah, I'm 5 years in off of literally just not playing games. Like, here's what the facts are. You do what you want with them. So I appreciate that. So if we go to page 1 of this, I'll run through this quick. I don't want to tie up the meeting. Here's the scope of work. So number 1 through 10 is literally what needs to be done in some capacity, way, shape, or form.
Okay.
I've got a couple of exclusions in terms of caveats, what could, once we dive in, but definitely take a look at those exclusions. So then I listed quotes. Now, I'm not going to get into these quotes individually, especially publicly. You guys could, you are the Board of Commissioners, but if you notice several of those, and you see the gutter in red. So I'm in the dark on that, but I threw a number based off of max, what I think, but anyways. But you see a lot of those, electrician T&M basis, and then a rough budget number that I threw at it. You see the security vendor, everything that's on this facility in these 18 sections has to be temporarily removed, conduits, cameras, so you don't throw blind or contract that on a quote. That's the way to do that is T&M because it's so variable.
By T&M, it means time
and material,
actual cost. And just so you understand too, the reason we're not sharing these numbers with you specifically, aggregate we will, but specifically we won't, because say electrical his estimate was $40,000, but we have someone comes in electrical saying, no, we can do that for $20,000, but if they're willing to pay 40, we'll put $40,000 down on the bid. That's why these numbers are not shared out publicly, other than the aggregate number at the end.
Correct.
Otherwise, we have to do this in executive session.
Yeah, so there's a reason that I did share that. I did let you know, Jim, that basically what I've thrown in here is public knowledge. It will be fully public, but on the categories of T&M, that these meetings are public, and we start throwing out what I budgeted or what is in, you're basically opening the hat to anyone play this meeting back and be like, oh, snap, and we're just not going to allow that. So no one's going to get the actual numbers, and it will be fair and honest, transparent work. So that's why I said please do not share the T&M sides and budgeting. Okay. So anyways, we have our numbers here. If you notice also, I threw in a contingency fee. So the aggregate to get this JO right, longevity, everything fixed, the grade of the ground sloped, we have a ton of trench drains going in, we're going to consolidate the drains and get it away. I mean, there's major excavating work to be done as well. This isn't like some guy with a shovel. I mean, we got to move some serious earth and correct the grade. But everything is in there. Aggregate, we're at $368,000. So I will let the Board of Commissioners know publicly that I threw that number out there as worst. I'm yet to ever get near worst when I've said that in all my years of doing this. The
numbers we can share because it's not specific.
Correctly, but I'm throwing the 368 to you guys as like, hey, I don't anticipate this. If you look at what I threw and even contingency, there's a lot of comfort in this. But
what I was saying was for the folks out here, the numbers we can share are the contingency fee. That just means you're going to put extra money in the pot in case things come up. He's got that at $25K, but he's confident that we wouldn't approach that number, but we need to have that in the budget just in case we find things. And then the other is his project administration fee is also time and material. They actually charge a per hour rate for the time that he's here up to that number that he has limited there. So it's not to exceed number.
Yeah, there's a not to exceed full meeting to approve, go past that, which is still far cheaper than that architect engineer, by the way, by I think 25 grand. So yeah, there's savings across the board.
And you also suggested then that if we start to do this project, as we probably will, I mean at some point, that we hold off until April, so once the project starts, it could be completed all the way through without having a winter break in the middle someplace.
You lose a chiller, you know, in summer you lose a boiler, in winter you run. And this is not something that I think we have to run, and I don't like jumping through hoops, fighting November cold. Also I forgot to mention, this is repainting the entire facility.
Okay.
So that's in here as well, and that two-tone, so there's the 3 stripes of a different color. You guys could, if you want a different color, but that number, we have hard number for complete repainting the jail, so it'll look really good. But, yeah, basically everyone, all these players and contractors involved, they're ready to run. And I kind of started, I said, before this meeting, let me fully get my head around timeframes. We're rushing on multiple fronts, several things to get done, and then to paint, because painting's last. I don't want a bad job done painting once the cold hits. So we wouldn't be able to grass sod till spring, so now the grounds look kind of crazy through the winter. I don't like that. And then we're still in the dark on the gutter contractor. So that's why it pretty much, my professional recommendation, this has been happening for years. I don't foresee anything in terms of safety or danger happening here. It's just an outside insulation EFIS panel. My recommendation would be personally, execute whenever you guys can this year. I understand you got to budget it, maybe the council, there's hoops that you guys have to approve and jump through, but if the funding's there and you guys want to move forward, to hold these numbers with these contractors, I personally would like to execute their agreements this year. This gives me, on my end, between now and March, to get everything finalized. Gutter in place, mobilization, what we've got to order, materials. March, April, first break, and you guys are further south than I am, so I would say April, but then we jump, and then it's seamless, it's back to back, there's no delays or stalls, and this is done in one swoop.
Now, the only thing I don't see here, and I understand your job was to repair the siding coming off, that was the issue, and why is because the drainage off of the guttering. But I know that Jason has some water issues coming through his office and ceiling tile. Are there any roofing issues that need to be addressed in this process too?
So two things. Are you on the main wall? So you have the main entrance. If you're looking at the main entrance, and then to the right, there's that wall with offices. Is that what you're talking?
To the right.
Perfect. So we actually, we're getting in now to 5,000 foot instead of rolling at 50,000. All of those trees, brush, shrubs are going to come out. We're just going to grass that. That's adding to our moisture right there at the EFIS. I think with the water infiltration we have on that wall, we'll get into that wall once we take those sections off and see, but as of now, nothing on the roof. If it's a gutter issue, we should be able to identify while we're there doing that.
His water damage is on the tile out in his office, in his space, and not
Yeah,
on the wall.
this is complete. We've identified, I say that because we've identified some issues on that outside wall right there. But this project in no way, shape, or form has looked at, nor is it included for a roof leak.
Okay. Jason, you got any questions, concerns, anything?
I don't think so.
Okay. We will have, when we get ready to adopt this, we will have executive sessions so we can talk all these things, so you yeah.
And that's
Cool,
been
Sheriff
really
Cole,
great.
former Sheriff Cole. Justin, that's the word, couldn't get past the J's. What have you said to make sure that we're covered everything that you guys can think of that came up that might be an issue, and see if they've addressed that as well in the process? Because you're going to know that we're not going to know. So between Matt and you and Justin, we ought to be able to cover every issue that comes up.
And this is planning intensive, and this is execution intensive. So one, it's a secure facility, it's a jail. We're going to be taking down circuits of power, taking down a camera at a time. So there would be, this is meeting intensive with the stakeholders on the ground regularly, whether it be Ed or you guys. But yeah, we'll make sure you guys are fully in the loop week to week of this is what's going on.
You know when the last roofing was dealt with?
When it was built.
So
There's not been any seal or anything done to it, it's not had a seal coat or anything.
Oh, I think they may have done around some of the vents, maybe.
could you look at that and see what, not a specific thing, not a bit out, but just out of your expertise, or from asking somebody how many square feet it is, what's a typical ballpark number to replace roofing as well?
So we'll knock out two birds with one stone. One, the commercial gutters most likely is going to be a commercial roofing outfit.
Okay.
So while I'm out there looking
Great.
at these gutters,
See what it costs to replace
they
the
will
roof.
on their dime looking at this anyways. Let's take a walk on the roof. I'll walk with them. So let me just, this'll go in conjunction.
Perfect.
It'll literally be what do we see? I'll get back to you with a report, and if you guys want to actually run further, but at least I'll get some eyes on it. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Now, Matt would like us to decide on this today. Of course, I told him we wouldn't be able to do that, but he would like to as soon as we can, so we can issue those contracts himself now. Then that would obligate and lock in the workers then for spring to start to get going, so.
The numbers are good, and I personally, being in business, I don't care when, if you're a business owner, you don't care when the work's done or when you deliver the product. Where's the ink to paper?
Yeah.
And there's something very secure about that. So I have no problem. I haven't confirmed with these guys. I've worked with them and talked with them enough regularly. I don't think there'll be an issue at all with, hey, we're gonna hold off till spring, but here's your signed agreement. I just wanna make sure that no matter what happens, material, economically, no one's gonna, oh, it's a couple months later, somehow it's 20 grand more. They're not gonna do that. So that's why I would say it'd be nice to lock this in.
Anything you need, insurances or anything?
I haven't seen the contract, but.
We haven't got one yet.
Oh, okay.
I have all the quotes, but it would be the same as the 5 other projects, that these core facilities is a project administration consultant, and the county itself signs off and signs all of the actual contractors.
Contract for a start in April.
No, I don't see anything on that. I'd just like to read it before we sign it, so.
My concern is if we do a hold off to April to start, if the numbers would still be good, how do we deal with those?
So we'd have to look at the contract. Usually that's built in there
Okay.
on changes and,
Okay.
material cost.
Okay, I'll get with Matt and see his schedule, and I'll get an exec session set up for us, because we can have exec for that purpose, for negotiating contracts and doing work, so we
Right.
can do that.
And I've got hard right now, caulking, excavating, drainage. Another is paint, and then another is the metal siding and ephes. So those are the 3 hard numbers. Electrical will do T&M, security will do T&M, and the roofing or the gutters, I'm expecting a quote, but I don't have that yet, but we could always tack that gutter one on later, but I can now get you actually 3. They're straightforward quotes.
Great.
They're very basic, they're not
Yeah.
the legality, there's very little microscopic writing in them.
Okay.
So how long would you guys like to think about it? Till next meeting? You want 30 days to look at it, go 2 meetings from now?
I would say 2 weeks from now.
You okay with
I
it?
won't have a problem making a decision. I'll read it.
It's a lot of money too, though, the count, as a council.
They're aware, last
Are they
week.
aware?
Uh,
'Cause they
budget-
won't meet for,
Budget hearing, we talked about that, where the number was. In fact, I just talked to Roy about that.
September 14th.
And there is no rush. I'm not here in any, I'm just saying to be, at least to update. And the other strong point is scheduling. That you wait till spring to be like, hey, they're talking about, like, these guys know now in August,
Oh,
hey, April, we're busy.
Yeah.
I got first dibs on the weather breaks, and we got them. So yeah, it's just, it's the right way to do it.
The council meets the second Thursday of each month, that's the 14th. Our next meeting would be the Monday after that Thursday, which would be September 18th. Are you okay with September 18th to,
Let me get my agreement is the only one that's included. That's straightforward like all. Let me grab my phone really quick just to check.
that's just a month now, it's 2 meetings from now.
Yeah, I just want to make sure I'm
That
okay.
gives a chance for me to take it to the council and just to make sure they're on board. I know originally we told them we were in that ballpark of 600,000 to $1 million.
When's our next meeting? Thursday?
Our is September 4.
That's Labor Day.
That's Labor Day, so it'll be the 5th.
All right, so September 18th.
September 18th.
That works.
Okay. That's what you guys plan on, we'll meet before that after we talk to council and
That's fine with me.
So you would want me to come back on September 18th.
you don't have to,
But that's the next
Again,
meeting
might have some
of.
questions that might not hurt if you were here to ask, in case we.
That- I don't mind coming.
Let's
Especially if
do
you have to
that.
find a gutter guy between now and then.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you don't mind, and it doesn't have to be after the council meeting, it could be any time between now and then. So I would say, once you get those numbers together, if you let me know, then I'll schedule an exec meeting, pick a date, what works for everybody, and then we'll get together, go over the new numbers, have a firm total number, and then I take that to the council on the 14th, and we can meet on the 18th and decide if we're gonna do that or not. So you just let me know when you get a quote for the roofing.
For the gutters, I'll have
And roughing
to,
gutters, so we have all the numbers in place, and then I'll take those numbers to the council. So that council meeting's the 14th, if I could have those before September 14th, then I can take the whole package to the council on the 14th.
yeah, as long as I can
Sure,
get,
get them to move, yeah.
as long as I can get and I'll probably talk, I've already talked to 6, 7. I'll have to talk to maybe 15, 20. I'm gonna next grab Indy. I gotta meet with 2 or 3 on site.
Okay.
And find the right one that really looks at it as like, this is the way to do it. But yeah, as long as I get the numbers by then, but even
Even if you don't, we'll go to the council with what we have.
and without the gutters still, what's nice about this is this is the only project I've done with you guys on this not to exceed basis.
Right.
So that's worst case. So yeah, between what that architect engineer budgeted to what these are,
Right.
to what it actually will be, it really turned out awesome.
Yeah, and between the contingency and your fee, it could be 40,000 less than that. even.
Literally, yeah. So, okay.
So the
I'll
14th
get go-
is your target date. If you can let me know something by the 14th. If you can't, I understand, but if you can let me know something, if you do get those governor's numbers, the 14th, keep that as your goal, because that's the day we meet with the council. So September 14th, if you can get a number to me before September 14th, let me know. If we can't, then I'll just go with these numbers as we have them with the council on the 14th, and then we'll get together when you do have numbers for us on the other thing.
Perfect. I will email you the 3 hard quotes, and you have what you have.
Right.
And you have my quote actually attached to
Right.
this. So that would be all 4. All that would be missing is gutter.
Yep.
And let me try and get that. If you don't have it by the 14th, then run with what we've got.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And then we'll get it secured.
Awesome. And I'll update these different contractors
Okay.
of this meeting. And thank you so much.
Matt, appreciate you.
Okay.
Thank you.
You still got my email, don't you, Matt?
Please.
All
I'll
right.
just give you my card. Just shoot me an email.
Okay. Just going to get these
I do
exchanged.
so much. I
Stephanie
know
will
I've
be
got
up next.
five.
My email.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, next we have Stephanie Law. Stephanie is our president of the health board here in Parke County. She's also on the administrative side, I guess. I don't really know what your title is at Union Hospital.
I'm
but
a vice president for
but you're that
Union
person.
Health.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm a VP. for
And
Union.
Stephanie has done a wonderful job working with Parke County over the years. She is a Parke County girl. And last year I asked her if she would serve on the board, and she's now president of the board, and we have made some great steps. I will say before we even start, and this is largely due to her as well, because we've had some changes in the health board. I know I tell the council this, and I know I've told Stephanie this, but I think sometimes they look and kind of roll their eyes. But I meet with commissioners all the time. In fact, I have a meeting Thursday with a whole room full of commissioners. Most of the counties are jealous of the relationship that we have in Parke County between the council and the commissioners and their health department. With most counties in the state is a complete territorial struggle between health boards. They had to pass legislation which would allow commissioners to actually replace health board members before the term, because there were some that, by God, I'm not leaving, you can't make me, this is how we're going to do stuff. And that's why the legislation was pushed. We've never had that to be an issue here, and they are actually jealous of the relationship that we all have working together. So this is what this is. So what we have done, the commissioners had talked for several months since the governor first offered this. The state has a new plan about how to help counties to enhance their health department operations. And in the past, we've had relationships with our health department where there was not much eagerness to do those extra things, to provide more services to the folks of the county, good or bad, but that's just how it was. So when we were looking at the funding here, that possibility, 2 ways of looking at that. One, you could go to the health department, ask them what they think they could do, show us a budget, see if it's worthwhile, and then go see if we have funding. Or the way I looked at it was the other way around, go see if the funding is available, and then if it is, and then ask the health board to task them with figuring out what you can do for us with the money we have. Stephanie's way ahead of us. Their board has already gone through the budget things and designed what they can do. And so that's why she's here today. She's going to share with us what she thinks can be done with what we've committed ourselves to. The important thing to understand, we had the discussion, was when we opted into the state plan, that didn't necessarily change anything for us, because we could have done exactly as we're doing now and completed, and then not opt out of it the next year and not be involved with that. I don't think that's going to be the case. But now we have an opportunity with our small amount of increase in money that we pay. Typically we pay about $45,000 legacy funds for the health department. And the first year this may go up to about $75,000 or so. But we can get hundreds of thousands of assistance from the state to do more health issues for the people in the county, including kids and old people. And so there we are. So I'll shut up and you just tell us what you're looking at and
Okay,
stuff.
so you're right. So the Governor's Health Commission put together a public health study committee to look at and identify opportunities post-pandemic of how the 92 counties in Indiana operated throughout the pandemic. And what was found is that there was an opportunity to help direct and identify, especially some of our small rural counties. There was 92 ways of doing things, right? So this was an opportunity to bring that level at a level set, and also to inflect funding into the counties, distributing those monies that we have contributed as tax-paying citizens to go back towards some really focused point areas. So knowing that Indiana was one of the lowest funded states in the United States for public health funding, we were very excited to hear that the Governor's Commission elected to move this through and promulgate the legislation that made this happen. So the health board, as Jim says, we have reformed, and we have a very engaged group of individuals. And knowing that this was coming down the road, we started putting together our 2023, going into 24, our strategic health prioritization. Because in order to serve your community, in order to serve your citizens, you need to understand how to prioritize those areas of need. And so before you is the report that the health board has studied and has reviewed, and it does identify some of the most pressing health issues that Parke County does experience, as well as how we rank comparatively to other counties and communities our size and of similar makeup. And as you know, we have what's a flat population. We have a flat in migration rate of citizens. We have, what that means is we have about equal deaths as we do births for our county. We have a high commuting work group, but we also share a high poverty rate, and we also have a high unemployment rate among our citizens. All of those years of hard work and those conditions has led to that priority health list being one of chronic diseases. We have obviously cancer, heart disease being number one, chronic lung conditions. But the one thing, and I think that probably astounded most of the folks on the health board after we collected this information, is that the smaller your line, the bigger the issue is. And suicide is the number one thing that we noticed, ranking the 5th out of all Indiana counties for suicide incidences, right? So that's pretty significant. And then heart disease.
Is that figured by per capita?
Per capita per 100,000,
Okay.
yeah. Stroke and cancer. And so we also did some focus group studies to understand what our community and what our key stakeholders felt our health needs and our priorities needed to be. Because we wanted to make sure we were taking input from a lot of people. If we were to have the chance to get these dollars, where do we need to focus them? Because the state says that there's core functions that you have to do, which is something that the health department shall do in terms of the Indiana State Department of Health, and then there's things that we should do. But these two last pages in your packet indicate the things that will continue along our process of implementing the funding. So as part of this process, and Jim alluded to the lockstep work that we've had to do with the council, is to set up a non-reverting fund, which is imperative for us to be able to receive these dollars. And so the local health maintenance account, along with the other legacy fund, will be able to be utilized for their intended uses and purposes until they are expended. But the new 1161 fund, which is this appropriated fund, which we had to get approval for, was approved at its amount that we had requested for $199,043. And so that is the sample budget that I have attached with your packet here. And I know it's very small, but it was a very large spreadsheet with a lot of lines, and I tried to extrapolate the lines that weren't necessary. So this is the budget that we put forth based on the data and the information on the prioritization plan. So our plan is to work with internal stakeholders of the county government, so not only the commissioning body but the council, but we're also working with the Parke County Ambulance Service, and what work that they did during the COVID pandemic really did demonstrate that they have the skill sets, the knowledge, the resources, and that to really help us along our pathway. I really think that this first year will be a very visual test, not only for the citizens of Parke County to see where this investment's going, but also to see the impact that we can provide utilizing some of our services. So we will be contracting as the health department, which is completely allowable for these funds, with the ambulance service to be able to set up what's called a mobile integrated health model, where we will be going out into the small communities and partnering with the volunteer fire agencies to have pop-up health assessments and opportunities, so folks without transportation can just get in to town, and if they need assistance getting there, then we'll have that advertised and work with you guys to help that happen. But we're going to be offering a variety of things such as heart screenings and making sure that we can tell somebody at that given time within 5 minutes of what their cholesterol is or what their bad cholesterol is.
And I don't think people realize that lives are saved every time we have these screenings. I have two friends that didn't know they had a problem until they went for simple screening, and they both had bypass surgery because they thought they were okay, but they weren't okay.
Yeah. So we're going to be able to offer that. We're also going to be able to offer point-of-care testing for lead. Because we do have cases in the county. That's a big emphasis of the governor's office right now in the state, where we have a lot of kids that are showing learning deficits and a lot of opportunities in the classroom, and we're finding out that these kids had early childhood lead issues. And so we're going to be really working and focusing with the schools and how can we align our resources and also go out to the communities to do these point of care tests, just like I described.
And I would guarantee that there was no set of parents, no matter how wonderful they are, that if their child is struggling in school, would never dream that it might have been because of lead paint when they were an infant someplace.
Right.
You just don't know those things.
So we're also going to be focusing on trauma, injury, education, and prevention, which also then wraps back to our suicide bucket, making sure that we're connecting with we're forming a subcommittee of individuals and key stakeholders, because it's going to take a village for us to overcome a lot of these health disparities in our community. But all along the while, we're going to be standing up resources that's going to the hearts of our community instead of asking them to come to one central location. Our funding will take effect January 1st, but we anticipate that we're going to have our workbook, our key process indicators, because there will be extreme transparency under this leadership to be able to show you what the values are, the lives impacted, the numbers that we have seen, and also within reason, what occurred. What are those case stories of where you just said you had two known individuals to you that had screening and then this happened. And so those are the success stories. And so we really think that this first year is going to be our year of traction to make sure that we are not only getting in, because if you were to walk up and say, what does your local health department do for you? There's a lot of people who would scratch their head and not really know what the answer is. And we're hoping to very much rectify that in this coming year so that we can set up for subsequent years of funding, right?
And really, 3 years down the road, we're looking at $500,000 coming from the state to be able to do these kind of programs, which we would not have had we not taken the step.
So all of the groundwork, as Jim has said, has been done. I just wanted to share with you the work and the hours that the health board has put forth to be thoughtful and how we strategically prioritize the dollars that our county has available. And thank the council for all of their work to help us strategically get these funds embedded into the 2024 budget plan. And then, with the official resolution, I plan to opt in, so you will see Indiana show an additional county, that being Parke, show up in green as officially going
That would be
in.
my next question. Are you going to take
Yep,
the next
I'm doing
step
that.
of getting all the paperwork to the State Board of Health? And
Yep,
that
so
kind of
I
stuff,
have the
so that we know?
SharePoint access as the
Don't you have to
administrator.
send in minutes, and there was a
Yeah, I've
number of
got-
things you had to send in?
I just have to send the resolution. Yeah, so I have the administration of the SharePoint platform, and then I go in and complete what's called a red cap survey. And then I will attach the resolution, and then I'll green light us. And I've already talked to my contact from the region, from the state, to let him know that that would be coming tomorrow.
I appreciate you. I think you're one of the wisest appointments we made, but all kudos to us for choosing to do this.
Well,
That's what it's all about.
Kudos to her and to the
You
board,
guys,
because
I'm astounded
they've
by
done a lot of
what we're
work.
seeing now that we've never seen before, and I really appreciate you.
Well,
But
we're gonna
I knew you'd be like that.
We're going to continue to see a lot of work come out of the health board, just have a lot of engagement there, and I have to my hat's off to them because it does take a team.
And let's keep this engagement. So if there are things you need us to do along the line, don't hesitate to ask. That's all we're here for.
Of course.
So,
Well,
Michelle.
thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, man. Appreciate what you did.
Appreciate it.
Okay. So you think I talk fast? Between her and Matt Steckley, I think I'm kind of a fat dog on this stuff, talking stuff. I think we do okay. Good job, Steph. Thanks. Next up is Mandy Burns, Town of Rockville, Bicentennial Committee. I think we have a letter from her.
Yes.
And then, we actually had this last meeting,
Okay.
and she wasn't here. We weren't sure what all they wanted to do, so we asked if she would come to this meeting to explain. If you look at the letter, they just want to put a banner
Right.
in the courthouse, but it's for the Bicentennial, which is the year 2024. We don't know.
Do they want
Have it
it
out there the whole year?
That's what they're talking
Are
about,
they gonna
yeah.
have it up for just
Yeah.
a month? Are they gonna?
Yeah, we need to
You
talk
know,
to them
and
about that.
we just didn't know what the details
Yeah.
were, so we asked her to come, but obviously she didn't come again tonight, so I don't know what.
So you just want to know
I think
how long
I'm-
Bicentennial will be.
I think I'm hesitant about having a banner
Oh,
up
I
there
wouldn't
all
want- No, I
year,
wouldn't want there either all year.
but if they want it up there a
specific
couple
months.
weeks or whatever,
Or if
I
you had
guess I'm
anything going on in the
okay
county, you
with
want to
it.
put it up, we could do that and take it
Or
right
if they're
down.
having like a celebration
Yes.
weekend,
Yes.
a couple weeks leading up to
Yeah.
that, but we just don't know at this
When she
point.
sent me the email, I emailed her back and said, you're on the schedule on this date and the time.
Okay. Well, they gotta work out. Okay, that's what that is then. All right. So, nothing's changed until we hear from her and see what you're talking about.
Unless we're wanting
And
to make a decision without her input, I
No,
guess, but I just don't know what she wants to do for sure
I-
based on this
My
letter.
opinion would be wait and see what the proposal is.
I bet she will be at the next meeting if she knows that
That'd work.
there's,
That'd work.
she just had a grandbaby.
Yeah, I
So she's
understand.
been
We
out.
just need to know what they're looking at because, and you might, if you talk, will you be talking to her?
Yeah,
Then I just convey that we're not interested in having one up all year long, but if she wants to offer us a schedule of what it might be, like if there are Main Street events going on, it'd be an influx of people in town, have it up those weekends, that'd be great. It's something we can take up, put up and take down, that kind of thing. Okay. Now we have a resolution on the renewable energies. They did find, at least remnants of, the moratorium. And then Nick has put together a renewal of that moratorium on the commercial renewable energy projects. And so, Nick, anything you need to say about this?
It just renews your prior moratorium, indicates you need additional time to study the proposition of those
Okay.
projects and research whether or not it's what's best for the county.
Okay. What essentially this does is telling companies that you can do whatever business you want, but the county is not liable because we're not giving you any permission to go out and contract with farmers because we may decide we're not going to have those renewables in the county and those farmers then can't enter into those contracts. That's what happened up in Montgomery County, if I'm right, and then the county got sued because those businesses had lost some money in their efforts because they already had contracts with farmers, but the issue was, well, you can have a contract, but you can't do that because it's not legal.
What happened there, though, is that they got midway into it,
Yeah.
the project, and then tried to pass it,
Right.
and that's why we did the moratorium.
That's why we did it
when we
first,
did.
yes. Same day they got, almost the same week anyway, they got theirs settled, that's when we passed our moratorium to prevent that. So I would make the motion then that we adopt resolution number 2023-07. It's a resolution of the Parke County Commissioners imposing a moratorium on commercial renewable energy project development within Parke County, Indiana, with the understanding this is just an extension of an already existing moratorium that's been in place for some time. That's my motion.
that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 2023-07. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
I have
Okay.
a question.
Yes.
Part of what you read was, the reason was to study the impact on the county and
Yes.
so on and so forth.
Make sure it's something we
What
want in.
study has been done in the last year when the moratorium first went into effect, or was renewed anyway? I'm not sure if that was.
We have had meetings with multiple companies as far as what the options are. We've met with the solar. I met with Duke Energy about their options. They've not come back to us yet, so we're in the process to see what the options are. Yeah.
There's also been a lot of litigation and things in that regard to kind of iron out some of the bugs in the process too. So there's been some instances where the contracts entered into had harmful effects on the land and things throughout the county. Not necessarily anything near Parke County, but across the country.
We want to make sure we have all the ducks in a row before we go down that path we can't get back out of again. I think it's a coming thing. It just needs to be done the right manner. In fact, that was one discussion I had with Duke Energy, and I know that Rick Berger, who's the contact person for Duke Energy, we met with one of their engineers, and that was my primary concern. I really don't have interest in one part. I'm okay with the other part, but the transparency of it. I mean, I don't want them sneaking up on anybody, doing anything to find out they can't get out of it. I'll give you an example. Benton County suffered this. Benton County had all those windmills put up there years ago. Nothing in their contracts with the homeowners stated that once that is decommissioned and that windmill goes, there was nothing said in that contract that the company has to remove those. That's on the homeowners to get those decommissioned and taken down.
Wow.
Big bucks. And you've got to take that someplace to get that recycled or buried someplace. So that's one of the things we want to make sure we want to have in line where that's going to be taken care of. Yeah, they got to figure it out now how they can recycle those.
There's two other things they've had too, the roads, as far as the bringing in and out of the windmill structures has caused damage to the roads, and that's been an issue. And then as far as the solar stuff, the battery element and any type of exposure it might have into the soil was another thing.
So it's a whole learning experience. We don't make sure we get it right. We don't want to make the same errors that other ones that before us. We're not prohibiting anybody. We're not opposing anything. We just got to make sure that.
I think it's good for the community to hear all of that, and not just we're slamming it shut.
Yeah, I'm sure if Benton County homeowners who took the windows up had been told that, and then by the way, when it's all done and we're done with it, it's yours.
That's incredible.
It is. And I don't think anything malicious there, just no one thought about that aspect, what's going to happen then. So.
Well, there's some of these companies too, they're LLCs, they're partnered with LLCs, they're partnered with LLCs, and when you get 5 or 6 different business entities,
they just disappear.
Nobody left holding the bag besides the county or the homeowners. So you have to be real careful that way.
Okay, so that's passed. Next up, traveler insurance. Motion to dismiss Mr. Ball's appeal, what's that?
It was dismissed by the trial court. He had filed a tort claim, and then he appealed that dismissal, and the appellate courts upheld it. So it's finalized now at this point.
Okay.
Unless the Supreme Court, for some reason, were to grant sitting, which they won't on this type of issue.
And nothing we have to do with that, then that's just informational.
It's finalized. They've closed out their case.
Good. Okay. Homeland Security, if there's a letter to sign, I already signed that. That's Chris O'Brien. That's with to be included on the governor's emergency declaration. We are already included since we were surrounded, what's the word? Adjacent county were covered anyway. I spoke with the governor's man, and then a lady from Homeland Security called me. We talked about no one missed out on anything. Outbuildings aren't included. Damage on outbuildings is not included. The only thing included is your primary residence, and only if you don't have insurance, if it wasn't insured. And I have heard of no instances of that. I've had no businesses have any. The county has suffered some costs as a result of having to remove some trees. And we've got damage to a couple covered ridges, and that too was included. So the letter I had to sign was to Homeland Security, making an official declaration that we do not have insurance on those covered bridges, and that's why they're eligible for some money, about $5,000, I think is what Chris said to get back. Okay, so that's done. Old business, the Union Hospital agreement. Let's talk about that again for a minute. I'll tell you where I am. I've been dealing with this for quite a while. I certainly know that Jason has for a long time as well. The problem we had before was with 32% after Union Hospital pays our folks, then we were responsible, and I think they were willing to pay that too, but we had to do the 32% pensionable items, and to do that, Susan had to create a separate payroll. That's why we had 2 payrolls to approve here. And so I met with Mary Ann, and we talked to the software people and the people who do that, and they showed a way where we can do it as a separate page. I talked, and Nick and I then met with online with the people who operate the pension, and they said that it's not a problem. At the end of the year, all we have to do is attach with the final W-2, attach a document that states that this much of this is not pensionable, which would be anything that outside income that those officers generated on their own as an independent contractor per se. We do not have to pay pension on that, and all it takes is just a paper saying take that off. So those issues have been solved. The one issue that I have, and I keep going back and forth on this, so I asked Steph if she'd stick around for a minute. She's really helped get this going. I mean, she's been wonderful with outreach and opportunities for Parke County folks. What this is an opportunity for our police officials, our police officers to have a part-time job, for instance, outside of their normal scope of business as providing security at Union Hospital. And all that's been worked out for the numbers. That's all up to them. One part of the contract says that any liability issues that come up or health insurance issues that come up as a result of them working for Union Hospital are completely on Parke County, and that we agree to hold Parke County, hold Union Hospital harmless. However, on that contract, on the second paragraph of that page, let me see if I can find that for you, Nick, here, where it states that part about holding them harmless.
I got it. So Parke will fully indemnify and hold harmless UHC against all liability demands, claims, suits,
Yes.
losses, damages, causes of action, fines, or judgments, including any cost, attorney's fees, witness fees, and expenses for death, injury to persons or property which are a result solely of Parke's performance or non-performance of its duties pursuant to this agreement. Unless such loss, damage, or cost is caused or arises in whole from the acts and conduct of UHC.
So the question is, if that officer has a confrontation with someone and that person is injured and he sues because he was injured, that line would say that Parke County is liable for whatever liability lawsuit may come out. But if you go to the next paragraph, it then says that UHC will fully indemnify and hold harmless Parke County against all liability demands, claims, yada, 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 all the way down to anything that should arise as a result of performance or non-performance of UHC's duties. So that's a lawsuit in itself, trying to decide who's responsible, who did not do their duty. So,
I guess my concern I'd express is that the majority of these suits come from some action of the officer or the officer's decision that was made.
Okay.
At least that's where they file tort suits most often against the officers. And they try to allege some type of wrongdoing or inaction or some kind of action that was wrong. Under this language, my view of it would cause problems for us and the officer.
Okay.
Because if you're looking at UHC's part, it'd be, their medical staff or their decision-making staff is action or inaction.
Okay.
Well, the likelihood is the officer's going to have to make a decision.
okay.
Would be my view of it. But I also agree it's pretty,
Murky.
vague as far as that. But that's the portion where most of the suits are going to come down is, say somebody's doing something, the officer intervenes, and then there's some type of harm or viewed as harm that comes. That's where our insurance or us would be.
You would understand this better than me. Don't let me mistake. Don't let me mistake this. But the way I see it is, UHC doesn't want to hire that person as an independent contractor and have them be their employee. Then they would be responsible for those actions of that officer. They want to pay that officer to be there, but they want us to be responsible for whatever actions he may take against.
Or inaction.
Or inaction. True. Which means that the taxpayers of Parke County would be responsible for any action or inaction taken by that officer working for
So
a union.
it's similar to like a lot of the school resource officer relationships with schools, and that's why you've seen a lot of community schools form police departments, and you start to see some of the hospitals and healthcare systems form police departments. It's because of these issues concerning the insurance and the personal liabilities and how you cast that safety net for the protection of all. And so that's the reason why it is. And we had this process in place with Clinton City Police Department as a municipality, as well as the Vermilion County Sheriff's Department. And we had a lot of interest among the officers in Parke County to be able to provide the same. And so, we did have some gaps on the schedule to be able to offer that up. Our corporate counsel worked with Nick to get the contract up and going. I know it was former Sheriff Cole that was in part at the time. But if there are language components associated with liabilities, then I think it would have to go back to corporate counsel and your counsel to be able to identify what would be workable or what would be doable outside of the salary component. But Union Health remains in good faith with this contract. We have done our due diligence to make sure that everybody's equtably paid on time,
Right.
treated fairly.
No issues with that at all.
And things like that. And the officers do find, I would say, these extra duties has promoted some retention, when you can't always compete with surrounding counties and things like that.
I don't know how much, but
So-
we're several $1,000s at
So,
one doesn't.
I would just point back to the council, SEL, not the county council, but the corporate council and your council to be able to identify what those liabilities. Because, if I were to hire an independent contractor, which that's what the main campus at Union has, is a third-party contractor who carries all of those liabilities. And so what that does then, he employs those officers, and then those officers get,
And that makes sense to me.
yeah. But we are not at a point where we could even think about affording, as a small rural hospital, something to that leverage level. And so this was the plan that we put in place to help keep the dollars in the local economy.
Let's put you on the spot, as a Parke County girl, as a Parke County taxpayer. Do you have concern about that situation where Parke County would be liable for anything that may occur at the hospital that our officer was involved with?
You know, I think that in situations and worst case scenario all the time when I try to look at the risk and the mitigation of liabilities, both from the hospital side, which I'm paid to do, and then where I live, and pay also to support. And you know, you think of those situations, hospitals and healthcare systems are now the most violent places now, according to the national AP US World News poll, of non-violent or not of non-fatal injuries that occur. There's a lot of assaults, a lot of batteries, you know, those types of things that come in. And then down in around Jeffersonville, there was actually a law enforcement involved shooting that occurred from a domestic dispute that he came in and shot the deputy in the emergency room. So there is not without a doubt risk that's involved with every decision that we make. And all I can tell you is that part of me says it's not if it happens, it's when it happens, because we continue to see an escalation among our populations that we serve of behavioral health need and substance abuse and addiction related matters.
So from the Union Hospital side, if we recognize that as we do, that potential is out there, and it's even likely potential at some point, would Union look and revisit that issue in order to have our people do that work for them, or is it just either do it this way or forget it?
I think that it would have to come down to, you know, our corporate counsel speaking with your counselor to identify where that needs to land. Because I can't speak on behalf of our captive insurance and all of our liabilities as a health system to be able to identify where that would be. But as far as us employing them as an independent contractor, that is a non-starter. We couldn't
Do you have
do
interest
that.
in talking with them and see if they would do it?
I mean, I can. Is it still Stites?
Mhm.
Okay. So the real issue just becomes those. At some point, somebody has to carry the insurance.
Yes. Yep.
And unless
And
they're
I can't.
employing the person, they can't carry
I
the
can't.
insurance.
Right.
So it really come down to what would it take for them to provide to the county for the county to be willing to insure that cost.
Okay.
I mean, at the end of the day, that's really, if there's not some type of compensation or agreement in place that makes it worth it to the county to insure that cost, there's not really a way to deflect it otherwise.
And I can't
Because
speak.
you're going to want the insurance to cover. You're not going to want to be held holding the bag without the insurance
Right.
covering.
And I can't speak for anybody else, but I sure would hate to take money away from our officers, like you said, for the retention,
Right.
trying to find stuff. But at the same time, if that exposure is there, you have to take that into consideration. Is it good for the county to have that exposure to help a couple officers make more money? That's where it
I
comes
mean, we
down.
had a case the other night that we did not have security on duty, but an officer did accompany a patient to the hospital that was very combative, did assault and batter one of our staff members. He was acting in his official duty, but thankfully he stayed. Because of the short staffing that's across both of our counties in Vermilion and Parke County, you know, we don't have a lot of bandwidth to keep back on the road and cover those emergencies that are occurring in real time. And so that leaves us, and I mean, again, it's an issue that's just very complex and there's no easy answer to it. But it is definitely a problem because these are just going to become more and more.
The reason it's an issue now, the contract expires in September,
Yep.
so we need to renew or no renew. That's
And
what we are.
again, as the hospital, you know, we completely understand the county's position. We appreciate, you know, the work that is done. We remain in good faith. So if the county does decide to, you know,
Sure.
terminate that, then we'll move on and move forward as an organization.
Would you mind talking with Stites to see if there's something we can work out on
I
that?
can.
How would
Yeah,
you
I
do
just,
that?
I mean, the only The only way I know how to do it though is for the county to have the insurance and there be some kind of compensation
Yes.
back toward the county for
How
that
in
cost.
any event of something, how they're gonna be covered, yes.
So, I mean,
Because the way I see it, if there was the worst case scenario where we did have to have an officer involved shooting, that would take place, then I would see everybody would be in that one large sum of basket. Because I mean, the net gets cast very broad initially, and then it kind of gets walked back. But I think that we do have to have clear definitions.
And if you have an officer who makes a bad decision and shoots somebody, you're talking millions of dollars of lawsuits here that we're considering. And is that worth having a few dollars more for an officer and put us at that exposure? So it's,
Sounds like you have a lot to decide on.
unfortunately, we have to decide that, yeah.
So, but yeah, that's going to be my only
Okay.
suggestion is
Well,
to go back
I
to
appreciate
council
that.
and to be able to clarify that attorney to an attorney.
Okay, thanks.
You ever figure out why they don't just hire them directly?
Insurance and liability.
Insurance liability, they don't want it. And they haven't had to at this point because Clinton and Vermillion cover it. Thanks, Steph, for all you do, appreciate it.
Yep, see ya.
Okay, next up, Randy, before you go, let's get Jason, because he's got stuff he's got to do. Are you late already?
I'll be all right.
Jason's here about overtime. We talked with at budget hearings. Right now, our law officers, when they do overtime, they get paid overtime based upon some basic scale, and it's just time and a half of that scale. That's not a real reflection of time and a half of what they actually get paid. So the recommendation that was taken to the council, and I've spoken with John Pratt and Roy, at least today both, was that the actual salary, and Roy's very supportive of this, the actual salary, that would include his general fund money, his stipends from his longevity pay, whatever his total pay is, take that total pay, break it down to an hourly rate, and then overtime would be time and a half of that total hourly rate. So that's what we need to decide, how we want to do that. My recommendation, after speaking with Roy and John, that rather than make a general study, a general application of what this overtime pay should be, my recommendation would be that we structure this in such a way that this only pertains to the security staff working at the courthouse security officers, that we structure this so that the pay for the courthouse security details would be a true reflection of a time and a half of their hourly rate that they now earn. And then we expand from other ones. My question would be, and I talked to Roy about this, I don't like time, and I don't like comp pay. I hated comp pay when I was able to get it teaching. I don't like that because sometimes in some businesses you're even dictated when you can or when you have to use your comp pay by. I always preferred paying employees for what they do. If they're getting paid, they should get paid time and a half. So I understand that even at the Bridge Festival time, all the extra hours you guys put in, you're just getting comp time for that, which is okay, but...
No, we get paid for that.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Okay, because Roy didn't think so. Roy thought it was comp time.
That'd be our time and a half rate.
Okay, so we need to establish a time and a half, but right now, the issue is paying the courthouse, as I understand, as courthouse staff. So are you okay with us establishing a rate for the courthouse security so we can pay that, the time and a half rate, and then figure out how we're gonna do overtime the rest of the time? Or do you want us to try to establish just a general overtime period?
I'd say your time and a half rate be your time and a half rate no matter.
Okay, that's what I told Roy today, that I don't know how you could delineate between the two. It's
Yeah.
overtime in this case and not that, but I'm not an attorney, I don't know if we can do that or not.
you need to treat your employees equally.
That's what I would think,
I think so. And again, I don't want to necessarily put this off very much longer, but there's an argument that longevity and the stipends are just benefits. They're not really a part of the base salary, okay? So when you go to compute overtime, you're computing on benefits, okay? And so let's just say we have somebody at the ambulance service as overtime. Do you add on their health insurance and their other benefits to compute overtime? You don't, okay? It's their base pay. And so it's longevity and stipend. And again, don't get me wrong, the guys deserve and the gals deserve as much as they can get as what you guys have to put up with. But from a legal
They
standpoint.
were passed as a bonus, basically, is how you have to view it.
So we have to decide what's the base pay, in my opinion.
And that was John's recommendation. He
And
said,
so
he
I
said,
don't, I don't know that I can answer that tonight. I mean, I will make some phone calls, call like Board of Accounts and some of them, see what they view, and maybe can do a little more research, but I think we need to define base pay first, before we decide.
Let me share that with you from John.
Okay.
What John said was my position, his position, is that the general fund salary and our stipend certainly count in the hourly rate to calculate overtime. He said, I'm not a tax accountant, but you know one, who can say whether the longevity and or certification stipends should count. So I think that's what the issue is. So I am perfectly fine, rather than to muddy the issue, to make it straight from their actual pay and if that needs to be changed at some point and include longevity and the other bonuses, then we can do that. But I think we can go ahead and do that for now, because we've got Bridge Festival coming up.
That's what we're doing right now, right? It's just from their base pay.
No, it's something.
Right now, it's our base pay, and it came up
And what
during.
they're saying, right now it's base pay. I think what the officers are saying is, that's not fair. We should get time and a half based on our longevity.
The reason why it came up is the budget hearings, I announced what we make as starting deputy, and then they said, well, the other stuff goes towards your pension, that's part of your income. So I said we should get our time and a half rated with all that totaled.
Which would benefit the officers, their time and a half rate would be higher.
Right.
If you include the longevity.
Mhm.
But right now, that's not the way they computed. Is that
Right,
right,
no,
Mary Ann?
no, that's-
Right
that's
now,
the-
they're just computing it without the longevity. Is that correct? You're doing it
Susie?
without the longevity
They are.
right now? Yeah.
But to me, on exactly what you're talking about, to me, the longevity is part of that base pay, because you're getting it because you're at that period, so many
But that's-
years. And
To me,
that's,
that's a bonus.
that,
Yes.
The
to
way,
me, it's a different pay scale. To me, you moved up a pay scale because you stayed.
I'd have
I
to
see what you're
reread
saying,
it, but
I
my
don't see a
recollection
bonus.
is the way it was drafted was it treated as a bonus though.
Okay, well,
I
that's what I
didn't-
said, that's what
I
we're gonna
didn't
do.
draft it, that was before
Okay.
me, but that's
Okay.
my recollection, because I remember reading it at the time and thinking that's a bonus.
See, I didn't see it. That's why we had this discussion too. I don't see it as a bonus, because I see it as in teachers. If you get so many years in, you get more pay because you got more years in. That's not a bonus, it's because you've got to that point. So if you get to that point of whatever, 5 years, whatever longevity kicks in, you're now at that pay rate, and that should be the pay rate that you're basing your time and a half on.
I'll need to reread it for sure,
Okay.
but that's in my
That's what
memory
I
is,
think
in reading it,
Yeah.
my thought was that that's a bonus and it's not guaranteed that it could be taken away. at
Well,
any
if that's how it is, if it's as a bonus, then we're stuck with just using base
Well,
pay.
or we
you
need
know.
to change that.
Yes, we can. I
time. You
agree.
could change that to be a.
That's what I
permanent
think.
instead of a bonus.
Once we can define
Mhm.
what pay is, definition of pay, then at that point,
You just
we
make the
can
salary
either say, okay, overtime is gonna be based on longevity and, the stipends.
Because if longevity is guaranteed, then
Because-
it's different.
Yeah.
Because it is a part of the base pay.
Right.
Okay,
So is that
Or
going
if-
to go across the board for all hourly employees?
We'd have to treat them all the same.
yeah,
EMS,
all.
Yes.
highway,
Yes.
Yeah, all,
EMS is already enhanced in the way theirs is changed when it was changed back to hourly rather than their salary positions anyway.
but then if we
Do
do
you
find
know,
out that.
did your attorney draft that, or did the council's attorney
I
draft
don't
that?
remember. who-
I don't recall us doing anything with those things. I think it was all council.
Mary Ann, could you give me a copy of whatever resolution ordinance was passed in?
It would
regards to
require a
longevity?
change in the salary schedule. To me, the salary schedule should be changed, rather than saying, okay, when does longevity kick in? How many years? 25? Okay. So I don't think it should say that at 5 years, you get this extra bonus. To me, when you get 5 years, that's the pay for that 5-year position. That's where your salary is.
If we had. if
In
we
which
did-
case, the time and a half.
Time half would apply to that, yes.
If we did pass it as a bonus, and we decide, okay, longevity is not a part of the base pay, then what we need to go do is go back to
Yes.
that
Change the
ordinance.
salary schedule, yes.
Amend
And
it.
amend that ordinance to
Yep.
take that language
Yep.
out that doesn't say it's bonus.
And I only base
okay?
that on-
And then,
Yeah.
it's a part of the base pay, and then,
I only base that on teacher stuff. If you're a teacher, if you don't have your master's degree, you got your bachelor's degree, you get so much pay. You get a master's degree, you go to a different pay scale. You don't get a bonus for having a master's, you go to a different pay scale, and that's what you're getting. To me, that's how this ought to be set up, where if you get that 5 years, and that's the pay for a 5-year officer, it includes longevity, and that's why the amount's larger than it was before, but it's a pay scale. Teachers, if you have more hours for each hour, some corporation, not ours, but some corporations, you get paid more money for each hour of extended education you have. And that's not a bonus, that you're in a different pay scale. So they have a separate pay scale for each line. Bachelor's plus so many hours, or master's plus so many hours, you get this pay. It's not a bonus, it's a pay scale. So you're right, that's what we need to change, is change that to a pay
Well,
scale
we just
rather than
gotta figure
bonus.
out
Can
what,
I have whatever there is on the ARP part two to read it?
On
I
that
don't recall
very
it.
end. There was a gentleman we hired to do a lot of these personnel things.
Yes, and we need to do that
I
again.
can't remember his name.
Starts with C.
Dennis
Cutter?
Dunlap.
No, not-
Dunlap, yes, Dunlap.
Dunlap, okay.
Does a break in employment reset the longevity date? And can that affect it all, and how it would be?
I would have to go read
It's
it.
supposed to affect, but for
Does
some
that affect
it
how you
doesn't.
can define it, whether it's a bonus or a?
I'm gonna have to read what we actually did. It was before my time here, so usually the things I've drafted I can remember, but
And if this passes, is it gonna start in 2024, or are we gonna retro?
I have no interest in retroing it. I don't want to mess with their budget. They've already budgeted, had the budget hearings and going, so. But we need to correct this before the next budget year comes around. It doesn't mean we can't, yeah, we could implement it in January, even though they got the budget set, but they know this is coming. So they understand that, but I wouldn't try to retro anything to
So-
2023.
council's okay with including longevity in this then?
That's,
Yes, and that's what John said, and Roy said, so actually, Roy left it up to Bruce. He said, this is basically a wage and hour question, and Bruce should know that pretty well. So what Bruce is saying is exactly right. If it's treated as a bonus, then no, it should not be. To me, it shouldn't be treated as a bonus. It should be a pay step and scale, because you reach 5 years from now, you're getting this much money.
So a bonus can be taken away as well?
Yes. And I think the longevity was set up with the bonus situations where if they didn't have the money, they wouldn't have to pay it. Where if it's a salary scale, you gotta pay it.
I remember
That's
thinking
where I was
about
going with my question, if you're defining it
Yeah, that's
like you are,
bonus.
then you break your employment and come back.
It's
You
gonna
still
be
have
in
5
that
years of
longevity resolution or ordinance that was passed. I just don't know what they put in it. At least it ought to be in there.
And you can even pass that pay scale applies if it's been 5 years of continuous service.
Right.
And if it's not continuous service, then you don't get
Then
that
it
pay
don't
scale.
apply.
Yeah.
My assumption is that's already in the longevity one, but we can look.
All right.
So-
And I remember the discussion of the longevity was because they wanted a bonus because they may not have money some years to pay, and they want to be
Right.
obligated to it.
There is an ordinance explaining how we're paid right now?
There's
Yeah,
an
okay.
ordinance explaining how longevity works and
Okay.
how ARP works.
How time and a half is, or?
That would, I don't know about that or not,
it
probably.
should be in a personnel policy, but
Yeah.
I'm sure it's
what
understood by the
should
auditor
be,
that time and a half
what is two
Yeah.
different things
whatever your base
sometimes,
pay
so.
is. And I
Said though this
and the
done-
ARP stipends, those go away when ARP goes away? Or that stipend stay there as a pay enhancement?
I don't know, we'd
I don't
have to
know
read
either.
that too.
Which
That's what
part, which
council
part's
said.
that, the ARP?
Yeah.
They
That go away when ARP
absorb
goes
that
away?
next year. Next year, it's gonna be in our salary.
Okay, so it won't be,
Yeah.
won't be salary
They're
structure.
Won't be an
then.
issue.
They're gonna.
So it's ARP this year, they're gonna, okay, that's
That's
good
my
to know.
understanding.
Good, good.
Okay, so that answers that.
So I would look at what we're talking about, restructuring the pay scale, as you get to 50, or this is what it pays, and we can make it, if it's been continuous service, it's not, you have to. We have, I mean, it's perfectly legal to have different pay scales. In schools, you have a pay scale for a bachelor's degree, you have a pay scale for a master's degree. So if you got the bachelor's, you got this, if you got a master's, you got this. So you and I, you can have your master's, I can have a bachelor's, we can be the same number of years, you get more money than I am, because you are on the master's scale, I'm on the other scale, so that's perfectly legal to do that.
It's just different, like if you have two people on masters, you have to
Yes.
treat them equally.
Yeah, absolutely, yes, that's why it's written out, so that's to me why, to fix that issue, it should be a salary scale issue rather than, a salary plan issue, rather than a schedule issue, rather than a bonus issue. And if they're already willing to take that ARP money in, put that in, then I suspect they'd be okay with longevity. I mean, you don't do those things willy-nilly. Your intent is to provide more pay for your officers, and so you can't give it 1 year and then take that money back. I don't know how much it is, but you can't do that, I don't think, so.
If I can look at the ARP and the longevity
Sounds
things,
great.
that'd give us some
Okay,
clarity.
that answer your question for you for now?
Yeah.
So I think our intent is to find where that longevity is included, and everything's included, not just your base, but for right now, the end of this year is gonna be the way it has been, but we'll
Like I said, it came up and then I was told I had to come here today and
because they need us
have
to
you guys
pass
pass
something.
something, yeah.
Okay. Did it come up for that, or did it come up for the security details course?
No, it came out in budget hearing.
Okay, just in general?
Roy and I talked about it.
Okay, just in general,
Right.
it's straight overtime pay. Because my understanding at the hearing that day was that the issue was the security officers weren't getting true time and a half, they were just getting time and a half of their base pay, not the other things included.
It's just time, yeah.
And I think they wanted us to fix that so they could continue to pay the security detail at an accurate rate. But my understanding from hearing you, I thought you meant that there was a base pay that they were basing time and a half on, but it is different for different individuals, depending how many years they've got in and where they are in the pay scale. So it's not just
Right.
it's just not a flat overtime pay for everybody. It depends on what your pay is.
Yeah, like I said, the only time it would come up is courthouse and Bridge Festival.
Okay.
And then jail staff and dispatch, they have to get paid overtime now.
Okay.
So it would affect them as well.
Well, let's pursue that and see if we can find out how we can do that and get that fixed.
Yeah, I'll just have to trace back what was done and
We can have that in place by 2024 and get that going in January. So
And
Susan gets
not to take up any more of your time, I'm gonna go over this map tonight in Bridgeton, and I talked to you before, Jim and I will get a letter together, talk to the council. I am going to ask them for 3 men after you and Jim and I had spoke. We need a 3rd man to help relieve. I'm gonna ask them for the amount of money to
Okay.
take care of.
Was that the $6,000 you're talking about?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, and I think they'll be okay with
I
that.
will ask for that. We'll look this over because I've got to let people know so they know where they stand on.
What we're talking about for
Deliveries.
you folks and for the paper is that they're trying to find a safer way to operate traffic flow in Bridgeton. And Dan and the people in Bridgeton and the Sheriff's Department have worked to try to come up with a plan that will be suitable to make that work. They will need 3 people there to man the guiding, and that would be a cost of about $6,000 for the festival. And the hope is that the council can do that as public safety money. So that's what we're looking at on that. I don't know that we need to do anything on that other than adopt the plan, and then the council can figure out where the money comes from.
That's kind of what my thought was, is
Okay, we can do that. Anything else for us?
Nope, thank you.
All right, well, we gotta get all those things included, get that finalized,
Yeah.
and get it done.
Thanks, guys.
Patty Hawley, not here. Patty Hawley talked to Don. It's the same issue that with Greg Lewis has been here 2 or 3 times about restrooms, use of the restrooms. I think Main Street would like to have those open weekends, and they're open evenings, late. But we've talked before with Greg, president of Main Street, that we need to sit down and have a discussion on what you want on that, so we can offer a plan and bring that. I don't think that we'll have much interest probably for providing evening, but maybe weekends. I think we can have restrooms open so long as they take responsibility as they have other times. So.
Do you know about the little sign on 36? It faces to the west. It's a little restroom sign.
They're pointing down to
They're
the
PCI.
PCI.
Public restroom down
the-
there. Yep. That's where the public
depot.
restrooms are. Yep.
Yeah, it almost looks like they just want us to open the courthouse every weekend.
Yes.
Just in general, not for
Just
special events.
Right, every weekend.
But just every
And
weekend,
every evening.
have it open.
And every evening. And
Yeah,
I'm not interested in evening stuff, but we
Because
can
we
be
got
okay as
so
long as
many
they take care
people
of it.
coming
Yep.
to do this, so.
And really, Gail, I look at this a lot when we're out. Most communities have public restrooms in their business districts for that. They don't expect every business to have their own restroom, although most do have restrooms. And if you expect so many people, you have to have so many stalls and so many.
I don't know if that's why PCI did that, just to try to help
It was.
people realize that, you know, if you can't go to wherever, go to the restroom, there are public restrooms down at the depot.
When we did that, that was really creative for the bus tourists. That's why they did that. When the buses come in, they had no place to go for the restrooms, and that's what that was for. I remember that discussion well when we did that. The hope was that, but it's just too far away. People aren't gonna walk from the courthouse down to PCI to use the restroom. I don't have a problem with having them available on weekends, so long as they're responsible for the care and the material that are used. But we have to have a sit down and figure out what you want out of
An
that.
agreement.
Yeah.
what about damages if they're damaged while
They
they're
would,
open?
their insurance, they have to provide the insurance, that would all be covered.
They said in this thing that they,
Years ago, the restrooms were open all weekend.
Oh, I know exactly why that was all messed up.
I
Yeah.
think of what
Fine.
happens at Clinton all the time at their ballparks and places like that. Their restrooms are constantly being vandalized.
Oh, I'm sure they are.
Is
Yeah.
what my concern is.
You used to have it, you haven't been around long enough, there was an old guy lived at the hotel across the street, Kentucky was his name, and he had a, Jeff KY, he had a key, And he would open the restrooms up in the morning, he'd come over, and he'd use the restrooms, he took care of it, cleaned it up, he'd go back and lock them up at night. But then we had a local business person come to a meeting and demand to know when those restrooms were gonna be open or not, and we said, well, we don't know, because it's not something we do. It was demanded that we provide that information, so I contacted our insurance to see if we could do that, and he said, actually, no, you're not doing that now, are you? Well, they're open all the time now. Well, you can't, because we won't cover those
Right.
things. So because of that forced inquiry, all that went away. We had to not
Yeah.
do that anymore, and now we don't have restrooms. Ignorance was bliss, but like George from the insurance said, but now you know, so you can't act like you don't know. So we're not going to cover that, and if somebody gets hurt, that's on you. It's
They
not
might
gonna be
not
us.
have covered it even if they
Yeah,
didn't know.
Yeah. So that's where we're with that.
All right.
So if anyone talks to her, Holly, they just need to come and sit down and work out an agreement with them. We're not opposed to working out something, but we've got to figure out what that is. Then,
I got this letter in the mail. No return address.
Yeah, I tried
Just
to
that.
Google map, but,
calling Bruce names or something?
yeah, I tried to Google map, but I don't know where 5300 is for sure. but-
Extreme eyesore around 5300 East
Old
US
US
36.
36, Randy, we're 5300.
You know where Old 36 is?
Well,
which
it goes
part?
there by the sanatorium.
5300 East, is that on the east side of the bridge?
Billy Creek
It'd
or?
be on the east side, or west side of the bridge, I imagine.
Before you get to the beat where the bridge is down there, that's
Oh,
out
500.
across the creek?
Is it north of New 36 or south there at Billy Creek, or is it on clear on
No,
north
it'd be
up
on past.
past the sanatorium and come out up
That's
there on
right
top?
crossroads.
Yeah.
Probably going east there.
That would be,
5300 would be east of 500, and 500 is there where Dwayne Carpenter lives, so it's gonna be on down the road from 500 east, so it's
Yeah.
something down there, I guess.
I guess somebody just needs to drive and find
I can do that.
5300.
I can do that. Having said that, before
I
we get
said I
back
tried
up
to
here.
Google a map and it doesn't come up, so.
But that's how I got it in
Okay.
the envelope, there's no.
You may as well
return.
keep that.
Oh, you've got a copy of it.
Okay.
I made a copy.
5300 east, I'll go look at it. But I don't know where that is now, it's just
Is it no return?
third of a mile on past 500, so I'll try to see what that is. Shoot, it left me.
Is that how that works?
would you talk more?
30 miles?
About 1050.
I figured out
About
yeah,
1050.
the even thousands.
Yeah. What'd you say?
Was it about 1050? We already discussed 1050.
No. Shoot. Yeah, that can be here in a minute before we're done. Gosh darn it. Oh, I know what it was. I got a call today. RMC had some logging done, not logging, but clearing done, where they cut trees off from the lines. And on New Discovery Road and 500, apparently they have left tree logs in the ditch. Are you aware of that at all?
No, I haven't.
And they contacted RMC. RMC said, well, they had no intentions of removing those. Typically landowners want those anyway, but this was the council member who called me. But the actual logs from the clearing for the lines are laying in our ditch, so you might want to drive that way and see. I don't really feel that's our responsibility to move those out of there.
Not really.
So if you find some, let me know. We can write a letter to Chad and ask him to take care of those and get those out. They need to come out of our ditch. I don't care if you leave them in Guy's Field, but you can't leave them in the ditch alongside the road. So if you would, he said on New Discovery, out to 500. Yeah. Okay. All right, that's all I got. What do you got?
Not very much.
Good. We've been long today.
Oh, you took up too much of my time.
I got a meeting here at 6 o'clock.
Basically, all I have is the contract for the Melcher Bridge. Repairing it, taking it off really, and all new siding, all new roofing, repairing the abutment, and repairing the some beams in the bridge. I think that's about it, isn't it, Dan?
To be honest with you,
Basically, you have a
to
crane
be honest
take
with
it
you,
off.
Luke asked me to look at it, and I refused to look at it.
Okay.
I said, it's your bid, you figured it. Until Nick opened it 2 weeks ago, I had no idea what it was.
What kind of money?
$316,800.
You got that in your budget?
Well, I think so.
Are you talking,
I haven't talked to the council, I just let them know about it.
yeah, is that including the covered bridge repair fund?
This is what would be out of the
Yeah.
covered bridge repair
That
fund.
would take pretty much all of that, but if it needs to be done, it needs to be done. So, what do you guys think? A question? Do you want to talk
We
about?
could do a little, some out of Cume Bridge too. I mean, there nothing says we can't use Cume
Okay.
Bridge on covered bridge
How
too.
much is in there, do you know?
I don't remember off the top of my head.
Okay, because some of that covered bridge fund, I like to use to make bridge repairs if we can. I know between you and the CBC right now, we're every year trying to get a bridge recycled, and Dan's got, family is gonna do the Thorpe Ford Bridge before Festival, so we did Mecca last year, so we have to have some funds available to continue that path and do those things. So what do you want from us? You want us to vote on whether to do that or not?
Yeah,
Yes, approve the
approve, well,
contract.
as long as we get, you need a signature.
I mean, that
Approval of
road's
contract
been
and
closed,
signature.
that bridge's been closed for a long time.
Well, it's gonna be close to
You know,
over a
people,
year, over a year. I think.
Over a year?
yeah, the people are, well, we had at least a couple people that have really been upset about it,
Yeah,
because
mail
they have to
people,
go
mail
all the
person.
way around and whatever, I mean,
How long would it take? I mean,
unless we decide that that
anyway.
road's no longer needed, I think we gotta.
Does the bridge have to come off to do the abutment repair anyway?
I think it'd be a whole lot easier.
Okay. So that
And
would be the
plus you
time
got,
limit?
plus you're gonna have to replace the arch ring,
Yeah.
and I think there's a couple, three other timbers in there that's bad.
Thanks, Nick.
So,
Bridgeton stuff's at my office for the landowner to sign,
Okay.
if they just wanna come by my office.
Okay, and then after we take care of this, I imagine we'll need a couple ordinances done.
Yeah. Okay.
We'll see what you-
and
So what you're
you're,
thinking-
you're always taking a chance, if you crib the bridge up, you get a big flood.
Absolutely.
leave you.
I understand.
And I can tell you this from talking to him after he turned the bid in. The main determining factor was that's pretty well a rock bottom. So to drive piling, try to hold that up, you're gonna have to drive steel H piling. It's gonna bust stone to do it. So how's that going to affect the
Great.
piling?
Yeah,
That
yeah.
was one of their main concerns.
Well, I'm not opposed at all. I mean,
Stone
that's,
abutment.
that's really your strong point. So if you
It's-
think that's a good way to do that, then that's
Well, like I
fine
said,
with me.
Luke bid, he's bid the last several jobs, and I don't even hardly look at him anymore. And it's his baby, even though it does affect me, so.
Well, to me, and I know some people have opposite feelings of this, but to me, you don't need to recuse yourself from decisions on this, because even though that he's related, that's still a project, and you're representing a lot of voters out there who need a voice on this, and so I think you need to include yourself on this, vote in this discussion on whether we do this or not. So regardless of who proposed the bid, if you see it as a legitimate bid, and it's by a legitimate company, and we need to have somebody to do it, and they're the only ones we're getting offers from to do it, then,
So it was the only
yeah,
bid that was put in
Yeah.
for it, and so, I mean, our choice is we don't fix the bridge, and those people are just gonna have to deal with a closed
Yeah.
road for
yep. So I'd make,
however long, or we fix the bridge, and so,
I'd make the motion that we approve the contract to replace and repair the Melcher Bridge as described and the abutment for a total amount of 300 what?
$316,800.
$316,800.
and I'll second that.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay.
You,
Any idea on when it would be done?
no, I didn't.
We told
See
you
that
before, we
there?
thought it might be back in operation by spring of next year. Is that accurate?
Well, yeah, he's gotta wait on a permit yet.
Okay.
I know that for sure.
Okay.
It's not quite done.
Okay.
The DNR permit,
Yeah,
Okay.
which they said would take months to.
yeah.
Hopefully that will be easier since they're not driving any piling anymore.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
only repairs that will be done, the abutments, since we're gonna be in the water, any repairs on the bridge will be done in the road,
Mhm. Yeah.
so.
All righty then. What else you got?
You wanna go ahead and sign this before we get council approval, or?
Oh, yeah, I don't think we need council approval on it. I mean, they just have to find the money. It's what we do. If that's our contract for that contract, that's what we do.
Contract.
Yep. They may want to take it out of our budget if they have to.
That'll be all right.
Yeah, yeah.
don't even know how much our budget is, if we have any money, so. We're doing that or worse, so you don't have to run your arm in the ink above you. And that bridge had problems before, but you had to do the east side, the shore hit it before because it was caving off, so it just needs to be fixed and put back, and last another 100 years.
Bad part is that thing's right in the corner.
Yes, it is.
Little Creek makes it corner.
Yep.
It's
Yeah.
constantly battering it.
Oh,
I
yeah,
need
you
to sign it too.
I'm sorry, Jim, I'm sorry. It was part of that contract. I didn't pick up when I moved it.
The only other thing is, I forgot to bring the claim, but I'd like to get an out-of-cycle check for Barney Carroll
Painting.
in the amount of $24,300 for painting and repairing, siding and repairing roof, for the Portland Mills Bridge, Roseville Bridge, West Union Bridge, Wilkins Mill, Cox Ford, Mansfield, Bridgeton Bridge. So he may already have the lettering on the Bridgeton.
No, it wasn't there.
Okay.
So that's why I'm hesitant to pay before it's done. I have lived that before with the Ritz. We had hired someone to paint the Ritz, that yellow on the east side and on the north side. And so we went ahead and paid them because it was somebody that one of our board members knew, and then they went away and it's still half painted. I don't think it's probably good business to pay before we get it done.
Okay, do you have the deduction if that's the only one that?
No, I don't.
I was gonna say we can
don't have
approve
it
it
broken
for,
down.
I hate to hold all these money up if he
Yeah.
has all the others done.
Was the Neat Bridge included on that list?
No, we didn't include that.
Would you arrange for that to be done? That really needs painted too. The inboards really need painted. If you can get that worked in too.
Well, the whole bridge needs it.
Yes, it does.
Um,
Yeah. So if we could do that, that'd be great.
well,
That's why I kind of hate to spend all
I
that,
don't.
all of our money on the Melcher Bridge because we need it for
Well,
other things,
I know,
but we gotta do it
that's,
all, yeah. What are you thinking?
That's what you're gonna have to do. I mean, if you want the bridge open.
Yep.
I mean,
Yeah, you got no choice.
like I say, we can probably get some of it out of Hugh Bridge.
We'll work it out, figure out where it goes. If we need money for stuff, Mary Ann can always find it anyway. She's the one that knows that, so it's not.
I kinda think maybe we ought to hold off on the Nevins Bridge another year.
Okay.
Next year. on
Okay.
that one. But
Okay. Nevins or Neat? I was talking about the Neat Bridge.
Oh, I thought you said Nevins.
No, Neat Bridge.
Okay.
The inboards need to be painted real bad.
Oh, just the ends?
Yes, just the
Well,
ends,
that
yeah.
wouldn't be too much.
Yeah.
The Nevins Bridge needs to be completely rebuilt.
What if we make a motion to approve payment to this gentleman for the bridges that he has completed?
Yeah, I think we should instead of, I mean,
I
he's talking
agree.
5 different bridges and
But you don't need to come
I don't
back.
want to keep all these money for.
Yeah. So is that your motion then?
Yeah, I make a motion, we allow Randy to, or Mary Ann to go ahead and do an out-of-cycle check.
We'll
Randy
bring
gets,
it, have to wait till we bring the claim up.
Yeah,
One-
bring the claim up
get it
just for
broke
the
down.
ones
just
that are done.
subtract the one off of there that he does not have completed
Yeah.
and pay the balance. And that's my motion.
Okay, his motion is to pay the gentleman for the bridges that he's finished with. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
All right.
Okay.
Okay.
Is that it?
We've got all the chip and sealing done. We're started on paving 900 south today.
Great.
I imagine they had probably about 3/4 of the first lay on.
I drove Beedale Road today and the heat, and it seemed to be holding up okay today.
Good.
Yeah. Don't know what it'd be when it's 104 Thursday.
Well, I don't know either.
I went through there about 6 this morning, I seen you had your equipment.
Mhm.
So I figured that's where you.
Is something going on in New Discovery Road? Not us. Somebody said that they asked if we were doing something there, and they said they were big hauling trucks.
Oh.
They weren't us.
They was digging a pond or something, I think.
Oh, okay.
They're at, Larry Goss's place.
Oh, were they? Okay, well, he'd be good to know that
I
then. Okay.
think Amish got that place, or?
Yes, they did. Yep. He moved.
They was hauling material from there down to the next Amish.
Ah, okay. I'll let
The
him know
house
then.
is right west of him.
Okay.
They had a lot of dirt on the road. I had to ask them to clean it off,
Good,
keep it cleaned off.
good. Okay,
But they should be done with that.
okay. Appreciate you, thanks.
All righty. You guys have a good evening.
You too, Randy.
Anything from the public for any public good? Oh man, the treasurer's here now, who knows what she might want?
I just came to pick up the little sister.
Well, okay then.
But before we close, are we going to?
Oh, yes,
Some
yeah.
sort of a
Yeah.
decision?
Yeah, I'll be ready.
Read off
Dan,
what we
what's
got
the
when
name
ours
of
gets
Luke's
done.
business?
Dan, what's the name of Luke's business?
Is it different
It's
from
called
you?
Excavating LLC.
Column Excavating LLC.
It's Luke and Matthew.
Yeah, they're in here someplace. And there's gonna be that one that he's gonna
That he'll
bring.
bring tomorrow.
Yeah.
So that's the plan we talked about anyway, right?
Yes,
Okay.
and the only thing, like I say, I discussed with Frazier after I came in here was that the council would give us a third person,
Yeah,
pay for a third person.
here's a map.
I've seen it a few
And
times.
they found out they don't need blockades
We
with all
can
those
get by
people.
with
They get away with 3 people.
3 people instead of 5. Basically, what, I'm gonna make a motion here to, hinge on whether the council will give Jason Frazier the money. That's been kind of the holdup on closing 2 of the main streets in Bridgeton during the Bridge Festival. They will be closed from approximately 9 in the morning till 5 in the evening. Bridgeton Road will be closed, barricaded with 2 barricades and 1 vehicle that will be manned by a deputy that will be able to move out of the way, move a vehicle out of the way on the north side of the Bridgeton Bridge. Bridgeton Road and Volunteer Way will be connected, so people are not at a dead end there. They can come up, make a turnaround, and go straight back north if they need to. The second barricade will be on Hawkins Road, east of Bridgeton, by the parking lot. The third barricade will be on the south end of Syrian Street. I can give you girls copies of this map if you need it. Then, let me see here. Bowman Street will be barricaded at Bridgeton Road. Mona Vista will be barricaded at Bridgeton Road. Bridgeton Road on the south end of town will be barricaded at County Street.
And which ones will have movable?
Will be the ones at Syrian, Hawkins Road, and Bridgeton Road.
Okay.
So if the fire department is called out within town in the main street or ambulance service, they can go down Main Street as far as the north end of the school. If they get called out on the opposite side where they need to go south or east of town, they can go through the man barricade at Syrian Street, take any one of, they can take Crook Street
Crook
down,
Street out to school.
Cali across to Bridgeton Road again, Webster across to
Yep.
Bridgeton Road, or School Road east.
Okay.
The only people this will affect as far as going to and from work is, there is 6 houses, 6 occupied houses on the west side of Main Street that will have to have passes to get out of town. Everyone else will, it will have no effect on them coming to and from town.
Okay.
So we're affecting 6 people going to and from
And they're aware of it?
work. They are aware of it.
Okay.
But if they go to work before 9 o'clock.
If they go to work before 9 or get back after 5. And another option they do have is if they want to park somewhere, they're perfectly welcome to, but I don't know if they want to leave a vehicle, but they can go to any one of the ones that's manned and get
Okay.
out if it's after 9 or before 5.
That's your motion then to adopt this?
That is my motion to adopt this, and Nick has already drawn up an agreement with the landowner to make the turnaround there. You can have one. If you want to write on there, the ones that will be manned.
Is there a second?
Which
Yes.
one is this one?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm gonna go make a second one, and I just wanna state just for the record, you know, I've been part of this for quite a while when Dan started this, and this is all about safety. This has
Absolutely.
nothing to do with trying to prevent businesses from doing whatever, vendors to do whatever. If we're not worried about safety, then we've got problems. So this is all about safety. Is this gonna be perfect? Probably not. Are we gonna have to tweak it? Probably. But we've got to do something for safety purposes. Let's try it, and then we'll reevaluate it after the festival. And if that means we need to tweak next year, so be it. But I'm absolutely in favor, as Dan has been, and Jim, I think, has been from day one. Let's protect the people the best we can. And there's no other festival that Dan's ever gone to, Jim's ever gone to, that many people will let you drive right down the middle of the street.
Anyone that's experienced that
Yeah,
would be in favor of
and
that.
plow through a group of people. So with that, that's my second. I just wanted to clarify that for the.
Been moved and seconded to adopt the plan for the routing as proposed. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
No one opposed, so it's passed. Anything else?
That's all I have.
The only other thing I have is, just so you know, that I have talked with the council and we have notified the owners of Old National Bank that we would like to be involved in the discussions, see what it's selling for and what the options are. We may be interested in doing something with that ourselves, so we'll see how that goes, let you know. And that's all I have on my little thing. Cooling stations, we're not going to open any cooling stations, but we're going to get a list of places that are open, be it churches or even here. If people need to come here these next 3 days to cool off, they're welcome to come sit here where it's cool. So I'll try to get that posted on Facebook. So they get a list from Chris as to what churches might be open and what places people have to go. It's never been a problem for us in the past. We've had places open in the past and they've never been attended, but it's nice to know that there is a place to go if you need to
If
go.
somebody needs.
Typically, for us, it's a blessing for Parke County. We tend to take care of each other as we go along these things, so it works out okay. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
A second.
We adjourn.
Mary Ann?